Let me give a little introduction of you. You're the Director of Recruitment and Volunteer Services for Nova Scotia Health. And you're here
correct.
You're here to help me understand the second annual Provincial Career Fair, which is something you're doing in 11 different centers across Nova Scotia, all at the same time, next Thursday, March the 27th. One of them, thankfully, is in Amherst. What is the career fair? What's a provincial career fair?
Last year was the first time we ever did it, and the concept is Nova Scotia Health is a massive employer. So we are the largest employer in Nova Scotia with 30,000 employees. So, I often say that Nova Scotia Health is almost like its own mini city. So we have every single type of job you can imagine is what we recruit for. We're not just doctors and nurses, although obviously those are extremely important, but it really does take an entire village to make this organization run. And we are coast to coast in this province. And so it was really, really important for us to show up all across, so like you said, 11 different locations across the province, and educate people here in Nova Scotia about the opportunities that we have.
And I appreciate that, certainly. And obviously, if you're having the second annual, you must regard the first annual as having been successful. What happened?
Yeah, so it absolutely was. We're pretty pleased. So we had about 3,000 people show up. So it was a great day. And we ended up hiring over 220 people. And if you think about it, most companies in Nova Scotia have roughly about 100 people in them. So if you think about it, for us to be able to sit back and say that in one event we were able to successfully hire over 220 people, I mean, it's pretty impressive. So, I think it was enough momentum and excitement for us to be able to pitch trying to do it again. And so this year, obviously, we don't have any set targets, but we obviously are a little bit competitive with ourselves, and we want to make sure that our numbers are even higher this year.
Now, you mentioned, of course, the need for doctors and nurses and so on, and I think we're all well aware of that, and a lot of communities have established committees to try and help with that cause. Will you actually look for doctors and nurses to show up at this as well?
Yeah, it's actually really funny because I think the perception is that, that type of person wouldn't come to a career fair, but that's actually not true. We had a lot of interest last year in our events for people who, for example, if I think about physicians, it was a lot of people who were thinking about going to medical school. So what does that look like? What do I have to do? What do I have to prepare? So we had booths there from our physician recruitment team to be able to support them in sort of navigating that, or also talking to people who may have been physicians in their home country. What does that look like? What does that process look like? As for nurses, we hired a ton of nurses last year. So kind of a perfect example. We had a nurse new grad come to one of our locations last year and was able to talk to one of our recruitment consultants. Turns out she thought she had applied to our position, but there was a glitch in her application. We were able to fix that on the spot. She ended up taking an emergency position, so emerge nurse at the Aberdeen. And we have tons of examples of that. So it really is like a great event to bring everybody out.
Now, of course, you already mentioned that you've got all kinds of employees in different categories up and down the scale. I mean, I think of all the specialty technicians. I think of the support staff in terms of administrative supports. I think of people who are taking care of the place and making sure it's spiffy clean and on and on. I mean, you would have so many categories of employment opportunity. This is just a remarkable thing, and I'm not surprised then that you had 3,000 people. And this year, I think people will say, hey, that was a good event last year. Go take a look. You might even get more, and I expect you will.
I hope so. I really do. And the other important thing is and something that really came out of last year that we're hoping to do again this year is really educating people. So, there was people, I have so many stories of people going to the event and going, I had never even heard of this position before. And now I'm really excited and I'm going to apply or I'm going to pivot my career this way, or I'm going to go to school and become this because I had never even heard about it before. So kind of the beauty of going to this event is that every single booth represents Nova Scotia Health. So you can talk to employees who are working on every one of those types of positions that you just talked about. And a lot of those positions you wouldn't really know. It's not like the common role that you hear about, like the standard positions that you typically hear of. And so that's kind of really exciting, is that you can go there and you can learn about opportunities that you may not even know exist.
Yeah, it's funny too. You think in terms of having a director of personnel, a person at the top of the hiring tree, if you will, and you make the point in your release that you will have actual hiring managers at each of the 11 events that are taking place next Thursday. Is that because you hire on a regional basis?
Yeah, so, we hire, every single department hires, so every single facility provincially. So we have lots and lots and lots of hiring managers. And the beauty of this event is that you get to go there and meet with people and build those relationships. So even if, you can't take a position tomorrow, but you've built that connection, so you have someone that you can reach out to when you are ready. So maybe by the time you finish school, you have that connection you can reach out to and say, hey, I've graduated, I'm eligible to start working. And so you kind of already have jumped a bit of a hurdle that most people kind of don't have. And that's also the beauty of these in-person events. Like, we're a very virtual world. We have to be. Even our event is paper free, but the fact that you get to build that relationship, you have to be able to talk to someone who actually works that role and have that connection. I think that's kind of a beautiful thing that comes out of this event.
You know what? If I hadn't discussed this with you today and heard you speak, I might be kind of suspect about the event itself. But you are, and I mean this in every sense positive, you are such a bubbly personality. I can't think of a better person to be promoting this event, frankly.
Oh, well, thank you. I will say it is my baby. I'm very proud of it, but I'm also really excited. And the other kind of wonderful thing that came out of it last year was it was also kind of like a team building event for Nova Scotia Health. Like, we don't get to work side by side with each other as often or learn about the positions that often. So even just to feel the vibe in the room and everyone's laughing and they're excited to talk about their jobs and they're meeting one another. So that's just what I love, and thank you so much for allowing me to share my excitement with you.
Well, it's infectious, and I think it's wonderful. Now, I notice in your title that you're Director of Recruitment, and then for me, the most important part is volunteer services. We're a not-for-profit running this radio station and other services in the community, all by volunteers. Would this event be really something for volunteers to be at, to begin to learn, or is it just for hiring?
100%. And thank you so much for bringing that up. Our volunteer services booths across the province last year were bumping. And volunteering is such an amazing way to give back to your community, but it's also like, let's say you're a student and you don't have the opportunity to get a job yet, but you need some work experience. Volunteering. Let's say you're new Canadian and you haven't had a chance to really get that work experience yet. Volunteering, or you've retired, but you kind of feel like you don't want to be at home and you have more to give. You can volunteer. I'm actually at the Aberdeen Hospital today talking to you, and as soon as I walked in, the first person I saw with a huge smile on their face was a volunteer, and they told me exactly where I needed to go. They really do make our facilities run. They're kind of like the heartbeat of our facilities. So we absolutely welcome and encourage people who are interested in volunteering to come to our event as well.
Thank you for that. You're preaching to the choir here, sister, I got to tell you. And let's get down to the nitty-gritty now. We'll talk about the event in Amherst specifically. Obviously, you can't take a big crowd like that into the hospital for such an event. Where are you staging it?
In Amherst, we're going to be at the NSCC Amherst Learning Center.
And the time?
Yes. Oh, the event is from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m.
That got me too.
On
That's
March
a lot.
27th.
That's not just a work day. That's overtime too.
Well, I'll be there at like 6 a.m. until the last person leaves. But we really wanted to kind of place our timing so that if someone is working, they still have a chance to, maybe they finish at 5 and they run out afterwards. So we kind of wanted to make it an accessible time frame.
Having said that as well, I'm looking at Amherst and area thinking, do you have that many openings in Amherst?
Oh, yes, we do. We have a lot of openings across the entire province. So, yes, we have it in Amherst, but it's all for the surrounding communities as well, right? And so we've strategically placed all of our locations based on that. So we've had people travel quite a ways to get to our locations last year. So we'll do a bit of a rotation depending on, where our needs are. But yeah, we absolutely have a ton of positions available in Amherst. But again, it's also about building those relationships. So we really encourage students to go and, learn about what they could maybe look at in terms of where they want to go to school and what jobs they want to do. So it's even about, maybe we're not going to fill a position tomorrow, but we could potentially fill a position in 6 months, a year, 2 years, and that's still important for us.
Yeah, and we recognize fully the importance of Amherst as the regional hospital, and Cumberland County, very rural, generally speaking. And when this radio program, for example, is accepted as the voice of Cumberland County, so we're talking about everywhere from Parsboro to Malagash and Tidnish, and all of that relates directly to the regional hospital in Amherst. So we know we're not talking about the town, and we're talking about the whole region. Now, you mentioned something a moment ago when you said something about we're paper-free, and I understand that means that you can communicate and deal with people and connect with people through the internet electronically. Do people have to send you anything or do anything to reach you before the event?
So, great question, and no. So you can just show up, and we are asking people not to bring paper resumes, mostly because, well, obviously for sustainability purposes, but also there's going to be so many people, and we don't want paper to get lost in the shuffle. So we've created a QR code. So as soon as you come in, you go around the room, you talk to people, you figure out what positions you're interested in, and then before you leave the event, you scan the QR code, and that gives you the opportunity to do one of two things. One, it allows you to enter your information, your contact information, and the positions that you're interested in. But two, it also enters you into a door prize. So we have 2 prize boxes at every single location. We've partnered with East Coast Lifestyle. And so, if you enter your information, you also could potentially get a East Coast Lifestyle prize box. And then we have a promise and a guarantee that within the week after, every single person who has given us their contact information will be followed up by someone from the recruitment team, letting them know, maybe directing them to a posting, answering any questions that they have, getting them in our system.
Now, I know there will be a few people out there who don't know what a QR code is, and if they don't know what it is, they won't use it anyway. But it's that it's that little black square with the wiggly lines in it that you see on price stickers.
You open up your photo app on your phone, and you just hover over it, and we will have, like we were talking about earlier, we will have tons of volunteers at our location supporting people with the QR code. Any of our staff working there will be able to help anyone with the QR code too. So not to fret. If you don't know what it is and you're not comfortable with it, we've got you. We will help you through it.
Now, not only that, of course, but for those 6 to 8 people who don't carry a phone and don't understand the tech, I'm kidding when I say that. I'm always being told the older people don't have computers, and I know that's not true because most of us are walking around with it in our pocket. And speaking of old, I'm as old as dirt, and I understand the tech, but there are some who may be there and do not have a phone. You don't want them to bring paper. How do you connect with them?
So we will also have laptops available. So our People Services booth will have laptops available. So we can also support people in getting into our system that way.
All right. I think we've covered it. We're looking at Thursday, March the 27th, next 27th. Thursday. It's called the second Annual Provincial Career Fair, on from 10 o'clock in the morning to 7 p.m. at the Amherst campus of the community college. And I'm really, really curious, with the excitement in your voice, I'd like to be at the event where you are. Which one will you attend of the 11?
I'm going to be at the Halifax location.
I
know, I'm sorry. But our Amherst team are amazing, and they would absolutely love to have you.
Well, I appreciate that, certainly. Any last-minute thoughts, things I didn't think to ask?
No, I think you covered everything. I just, and thank you again so much for speaking with me today and helping me promote this event. It's a good thing. It's a good thing for Nova Scotia. It's a good thing for Canada. We love our healthcare. It's part of who we are, even though we love to complain about it. But it is such a critical part of who we are as Canadians. And so in any capacity that we can support our facilities across the province and our province as a whole is a good thing. So we really look forward to everyone showing up and for us meeting them. And hopefully, fingers crossed, it ends up with lots more hires.
Well, I really appreciate you being here today to share that information with us. It's been very enlightening, to be sure. And I didn't intend to bring this up, but I can't help myself. Your leaders, the leaders in Nova Scotia Health, are not really prone to reaching out to the community. Their record in actually communicating with the community is pretty sad. And we've had a very negative experience right here trying to bring them onto the radio to talk about some very worthwhile topics. And you're the first voice from Nova Scotia Health we've had in a very, very long time. And I hope they're listening, because I hope they understand what you're doing and reaching out to the community is positive for Nova Scotia Health. Not just positive for us in the community, but it's one hand washing the other. And if you can speak with the smile like you do, you'll get it done every time. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you as well. You have a wonderful day.